Welcome to Grownish Woman. I'm your host, Holly Teagarden. This is the podcast for women who are in the messy middle of midlife. Your kids are growing up, your hormones are doing whatever they want, and that quiet little voice is asking, okay, well, what do I want to be when I grow up? And it's getting louder by the day. We talk about the stuff everybody is going through, but nobody wants to talk about. We laugh at the chaos, we sit in the hard parts, and we do it all without judgment, because midlife does not come with a manual, but it does come with this podcast. Let's go. Today's episode is one that is close to my heart, and I mean that in the most literal way possible, because my guest today is someone who was my therapist, someone who helped me in ways I'm still unpacking. So this one feels a little vulnerable, a little personal, and a whole lot important. And I hope you feel that too. We are talking about self-compassion. And I know some of you just heard that and thought, okay, spa day, bubble bath, I get it. But that's not what this is, not even a little bit. What we're actually talking about is the way you speak to yourself inside your head. That voice, the one that tells you to just push through, suck it up, stop being so dramatic, get it together. The one that a lot of us Gen X women have had running on a loop for about 45 years. Here's what I want you to know about me before we get into it. I'm gonna be 53. I am a Gen Xer through and through. I was raised on buck up, handle it, don't complain. And for most of my adult life, I generally thought being hard on myself was just how you got things done. I didn't even know there was another way. I didn't know the voice in my head, the critical, relentless one, was actually working against me. That it was keeping me in a constant low-grade threat state. That my body was keeping score of every single thing I pushed through and powered through. Yeah. A few years ago, I started working with a therapist who patiently, compassionately helped me understand all that. She gave me tools, real tools. And here's the honest part. During this episode, having this conversation again with Wendy made me realize that somewhere along the way, I might have let those tools collect dust. Life got busy. We had the sandwich generation pulled me in about 14 directions, and perhaps the practice I had built quietly slipped away. This conversation was a reminder for me, just as much as it is for you, to pick those tools back up and actually use them, to make it a daily practice again. Because this work doesn't happen once and then you're done. It's just something you come back to over and over. My guest today is Wendy Waltquist. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist and the founder of Become Your Happy based in Cranberry Township, PA. She also sees clients online throughout the state of PA. What makes Wendy different is her background in systems theory. She doesn't just look at you in isolation. She looks at you in the context of your relationships, your history, the environment, and the patterns you were raised inside of. She specializes in trauma and PTSD using body-based, evidence-backed approaches like somatic experiencing and mindfulness to help people heal in a way that actually sticks. She is warm, she's incredibly smart, she is a fellow Gen Xer, and she gets it. She gets where we came from and why this is so hard for women like us. Here are some of the thoughts you are going to learn in this episode. Why the push through, tough it out mentality so many of us were raised starts to completely backfire in our 40s and 50s and shows up in your body in ways you might not even connect the dots to stress. What is actually happening in your nervous system when you've been suppressing your feelings for decades and why it eventually starts leaking out, whether you're ready for it or not. The science behind self-compassion and why Kristen Neff's research proves it is not a soft skill. It is one of the most powerful tools your nervous system has for resilience, recovery, and performance. How to actually practice self-compassion when you have 30 seconds to spare. Wendy walks us through a 4-part somatic grounding practice when the anxiety starts to spiral and you need to tell your nervous system, I'm safe right here and right now. One thing Wendy said that I can't stop thinking about. 100% of her clients struggle with self-compassion. 100% of her clients struggle with self-compassion. Every every single one. Doesn't matter the age, doesn't matter the generation, all of us. And honestly, that made me feel less alone, more certain that this conversation needed to happen. And like me, maybe, you had tools once, they need to be dusted off, or you're brand new to this idea. This episode is your reminder to pick them back up or learn new tools. Let's get into it. Wendy, thank you for joining me today.
I'm happy to. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, I think self-compassion is such an interesting topic and one that I didn't know about until like a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
I think it's because my generation, so I'm going to be 53, I'm a Gen Xer, we were raised not to have compassion for ourselves. We were raised to crush
exactly.
it, buck up and deal with it. I am
Yep.
sure I had that said to me throughout the years. And I feel
Yep.
because we have this buck up mentality, now how is that manifesting for women when they're 40 and 50?
And sometimes even earlier, depends on some of us.
Really?
But I'm also a Gen X too.
Yeah.
So it shows up lots and lots of different ways. And just like you were saying, it's because we were kind of raised on push through, toughen up,
Right.
handle everything, even though you're taking care of everyone around you. And so we ended up having to shove a lot of things down in order
Yeah.
to survive. So basically, whatever we shove down starts coming back up or out or somehow because our body holds on to it and it can't process it in the moment. So it holds on to it for later. And eventually, our nervous system just can't tolerate it anymore. So it just starts leaking out.
So
And
it's
so,
kind of like that book, The Body is Keeping Score.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And so, like, physically, to answer your question, sometimes it will be like with weight or tension in your muscles or hormone issues, sleep issues, autoimmune issues, anti inflammatory issues, digestive issues, headaches, or it might be brain fog, irritability, anxiety, anger, resentment, depression, numbness, mood swings that come out of nowhere. There's a quote from a book that I just was listening to the other day, and it answers your question. If I can just
Okay.
read this quote, it says, "Our bodies are telling the stories we have avoided or forgotten how to hear. And sometimes our inability to feel our feelings, the messages that precede the alarm bells, means our bodies have to scream in order to get some attention." And so that's from Hillary McBride.
Wow.
So it's a perfect quote.
Wow.
Yeah.
So why is it though? So again, to go back to my age, I feel like it started to really hit me in my 40s. And does the change, the perimenopause pause, I mean, why does the way that we do things stop working then?
So there's a lot of different ways or a lot of different reasons. It's just, I guess, let me just backtrack a little bit where
Yeah.
like we've been trained a certain way, like we have habits, we have neural networks in our brain. People expect us to act a certain way.
Right.
Right? And so, in order to break that, it takes so much intention. It takes self compassion. It takes conscious choice. It takes renegotiating not only with ourselves, but with those people around us because our roles are changing. We have to shift to doing things we want to do, not because we have to do them. We have to learn how to deal with disappointing other people.
How do you help a client move from being angry at her body to practicing actual grace?
Love this question because, first of all, I'm going to just say it's normal to be angry. And so,
Yeah.
I think part of it's understanding like it's normal to be angry. Something we've done for so long isn't working anymore. Our bodies aren't working the same. Everything's different.
So wait, Wendy, I'm sorry to interrupt. So I want to just so it's okay to have anger as a emotion. Because
Absolutely.
okay. Okay.
And, and that's part of this thing is I think before we shoved it down
Yes.
and we think it's not okay. And
Right.
there's so much like negative
Connotations
yes,
around
yes.
being angry. Yeah.
Yeah. And so part of this is just accepting like it's normal, it's okay. And anger, it's an emotion that shows up that, well, all the emotions are natural. There's no good or bad. It's
Right.
just we don't seem to like anger, but it's a message, right? And if we stop and listen to what the message is, it's usually, telling us to do something different, to set a boundary, to take care of ourselves, to change something that's not right. And so it's got a message there that's in our best interest. So listening to that is really good.
I'm thinking out loud when we start setting boundaries, it's probably difficult, or I know it's difficult for our loved ones, our
Yeah.
partners, our kids. And I think maybe that's why people say menopause women are crazy because we're just processing the trauma and all these things. We finally have the time to focus on ourselves.
Maybe.
Yeah. 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 We were taught that
being kind to ourselves was soft.
Okay.
Like, how does the research from Kristen Neff prove that self compassion is actually a high performance tool for our nervous system and its survival?
So if it's okay, I want to kind of address what most people think self compassion is.
Okay.
Right. And then I'll go into your question. But I think a lot of people, they hear self compassion and they think it's like getting pedicures and manicures and
Right.
massages. Right. It's like, let me just, treat myself to something nice, which is not what it is. Plus, our culture is so like production driven that
Yeah.
anything that takes us away from produce, task,
Yes.
we're like, no, it's not okay. Right. So not only do we have like this harsh inner dialogue that we're dealing with, we have the
Yeah.
culture. And so we hear self compassion, we kind of lump it into, yeah, right.
I
That's
don't
not
have
the
time for
thing.
that.
But the reality is going to your question about the research, it shows that critical, harsh internal environments that we generate in our head, like in our internal dialogue when we're
Yeah.
self-critical and judgmental, that it actually backfires on us and that we are more capable and motivated and productive when we use self-compassion. It
Mm,
says it's associated with greater emotional resilience, with increased motivation, healthier coping, lower anxiety and depression, greater ability to recover from setbacks. So it doesn't just reduce performance, it actually helps us sustain better performance over a longer haul. And
mm,
just to give a little explanation of, or the science I think behind it is that when we are self critical, our nervous system is in the state of internal threat, right? So we have more stress hormones, we have more tension, less clarity, and we get burned out. But when we have self-compassion, that internal dialogue in our head,
yeah.
it it changes that, so we're not in threat mode anymore, right? It softens it. So instead of fear and pressure and shame driving us, then we end up being kinder, softer to ourselves. We perform better, we think more clearly, we recover faster. So that's kind of what the research shows.
Mm, that's so deep when you think about it. Take a deep breath and absorb what Wendy just said. Ay, ay, ay. But how can self compassion help us in our like 40s and maybe even 50s when we're realizing our lives are shifting? It's different. Our kids are gone. We're all alone. Our parents are getting older. How can self compassion help us?
Yeah. This is so hard because in so many different ways, because we're coming from we push through everything, right? We're superwoman.
Right.
But then our bodies start changing and priorities and like you were saying, we have different responsibilities. It's like our identity changes and we don't know what to do with it.
Yes.
And with our culture, we start feeling like we are less than. And even if we,
Yes.
I think, externally acknowledge that, like it's internalized somehow, like, unaware sometimes. So we wrestle with our worth, like you were talking about, our capabilities, our limitations, our activity
Yeah.
level. And grief shows up once the anger quiets down a little bit, or sometimes it's together. And again, just like anger, it's natural, right? Grief is a normal, natural emotion
Yeah.
because there is loss. There's loss of what was, there's loss of well, all kinds of things, our kids, our
Right.
health, our, different things. And so with self-compassion, going to your question, it helps us kind of metabolize all of these changes in a healthy way where we find a more
Okay.
authentic way to move forward. And just like when you were asking about the research on self-compassion, it shows that it helps us with suffering and with grief because we're more resilient, we have more flexibility emotionally. So instead of kind of collapsing into all the shame of I'm not good enough, I can't do enough, all that stuff, it helps us stay connected to ourselves. And our nervous system needs that space to kind of reorganize and as our identity shifts. Passion gives us that space for our nervous system to kind of deal with that.
What are some examples of how you can be self-compassionate to yourself?
So that's an excellent question because I think it's kind of different for all of us. We all have different personalities, different
Right.
ways we are in our heads. But the gist of it is that we treat ourselves inside of our head the way we'd treat our best friend or treat someone we love dearly,
Mm,
treat our child, well, if you love your partner, right? Treat how you treat your partner. Instead of like that harsh, like, suck it up, get over it, you're stupid. Instead, it's this attitude of, we're doing the best we can. This is hard. It's okay. Everybody goes through hard times. This is just a hard time. Like that attitude is really what it's about. And it's going to look different how we phrase that to ourselves based on our
okay.
personality. But
It's really like giving ourselves grace and making, having that inner dialogue of
mhm.
that grace and reminding ourselves it's okay to mess up. It's,
Yes.
yeah.
Absolutely. And we don't call ourselves names unless they're nice names.
Right, right. And for many of us, me included, I feel like this is such a mind shift that it takes practice, like
It does.
regular practice.
It does for sure.
Yeah.
Because especially for us Gen Xers, right?
Yeah.
We're definitely raised on that suck it up, tough it out, especially like boys don't cry, but we weren't either, really.
Mhm.
So it's just like be superwoman. And so it's hard to instead have that mindset of it's okay to be flawed. It's okay to be slower or to struggle, right? It's okay. And how do we be kind to ourselves in that okayness?
For somebody who has got so much going on, maybe their parents are living with them, their kids, how do they make that space for this when their
Yeah.
brain is already at 100?
That is such a common question, actually, when people come to see me, because who has time to do more, right? Like you said, we're sandwiched between, we have so many responsibilities.
Right.
And it's like, oh, how do I learn self compassion? How do I learn mindfulness? How do I, right? It's too much. And so I like to start with like understanding, like, let's just go to mindfulness, for instance, where
Okay.
it's not the perception I think that people have of sitting there and emptying your brain and chanting. Like, that's not what mindfulness is. Mindfulness is being in the present moment right here, right now. And that can
Mm.
happen when you're playing with a grandchild, if you have a grandchild or your child. It can happen when you're petting a cat or when you're looking at the sunshine, where you just take these moments that happen throughout the day and you just savor them. And that helps you
Mm.
be mindful and you're practicing mindfulness. It can be anything, right? It could even be I'm stuck at a stoplight, so I'm going to take a breath. It could be I'm noticing right here, right now, how am I sitting in my chair? How's my posture? So anything that just helps you be in the moment is really how you do it.
I'm just thinking, would a gratitude journal help? Would that be a way to start this practice?
I think it's a helpful thing to do, but it's not necessarily a mindful thing to do.
Okay.
There's kind of a difference.
Yeah. Because it's not your mind, you really have to change your mindset.
Yeah.
It's like yeah, I totally get it. Do you see a lot of clients I know through HIPAA you're not allowed to say anything, and I get it, but do you see a lot of clients that this idea of self-compassion, they're struggling with it or they don't even know about it, but need
I
it?
would say 100 of my
Really?
clients.
Really?
Absolutely. I mean, and even maybe somebody who's said that they've heard of it or tried to learn it, they aren't practicing it because they haven't really integrated it or understand what it is.
Wow.
And so even the younger generations, they
Really?
struggle with it just as much as us older people.
Oh my gosh. That, like I guess I feel better knowing that I'm not alone. But it's also shocking that even the younger generation is having this problem because my hope would be that as parents, we're like, oh shit, we weren't taught this, but we need to make sure we teach it to our kids.
Yeah, the younger generations seem to have more of an ability to share their emotions, I guess, than
Okay.
like us older people. But us, I'm gonna say us, like we raised our
Right.
kids coming from that attitude of suck it up, we can do it all.
Right.
And so they saw our example of doing that. And so they are still dealing with that aftermath as they are trying to deal with their own things they're dealing with.
Yeah. Hmm.
But yeah, I think everybody struggles with self compassion until
Yeah.
it's a skill you practice. It's like learning the piano, it's like learning self compassion.
Wild. I don't know. I'm gonna have to reprocess again all the information because it is a learning discipline and one that if you don't practice it
Yep.
daily, you can kind of like veer off back to,
Yep.
talking terrible about yourself and bad thoughts and all the things.
As you say that, I guess I also had a thought too that when you learn how to practice self-compassion, you
Yeah.
become kinder to those around you too.
Yeah.
It helps both directions.
Wow. That's deep. But I have so in the same vein,
Mhm.
when we are showing self compassion, often we are setting hard boundaries. And so we feel guilty when we say no,
Right.
but we need the hard boundaries, right?
Yep. 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 So boundaries are super hard. And if it's okay, I think about our generation, right? And kind of this push through mentality.
Right.
Where so many times, like outwardly, we're like, okay, sure, fine. I'll do it. I'll take care of you. I'll whatever. But internally, like we want to say no, but we're not. So
Yeah.
externally, we're saying yes internally, like there's this conflict, right? And so that raises our heart rate, it causes
Yes.
stress hormones. So we have this internal conflict because basically outwardly we're saying, okay, fine, we'll do this. And inwardly we're like, no, I can't. And so setting that boundary actually helps resolve that internal conflict. So we have more energy, more compassion, more all those things
Yes.
to set that boundary. But the guilt, it shows up, right? I don't
Yeah.
care how much you practice setting boundaries, the guilt shows up. And with self compassion, it's okay. You notice the guilt. And
Mm.
self compassion gives you that space to give pause like, okay, why is the guilt showing up? Is it old patterns, old tendencies? Is it something that it's just helping me reevaluate? Am I doing this because I feel guilty or because I want
Oh,
to? And so self compassion helps you take that space to determine, okay, it's okay to be guilty, but what is the message here? Kind of like anger. What is the message with this guilt showing up?
right. Well, I mean, self-compassion kind of can rewire us to
Mhm.
heal in a way.
Absolutely. It
Yeah.
makes our internal environment safe instead of harsh.
Right. So we're not a fight or flight. We're
Yep.
just in that safe space.
Yep. And so
And
then emotions will pop up that maybe we've shoved down for so long
right.
because we've created the safe space. And then we start thinking, oh, I'm getting worse. No. It's like if we're creating that safe space, then our emotions are finally saying, yeah, you can take care of me now.
Yes. And you can process all the trauma and the hurt, the thoughts that you've had, the creeds, or I forget the kind of word you would say that you've had your whole
Yeah.
life.
Yeah, exactly.
Ugh, you can't see me, but I have the emoji that with the head is like, whoa. I wanted to do a rapid fire with you. I do
Okay.
this with every one of my guests. What is the one book? Obviously, beside Kristen Neff's, everybody get Kristen Neff's books. They're awesome. What is the one book that every woman,
Both of our books, right?
all of her books,
Yeah. Not just the one, but both
no,
of them.
all of them, like, what is one book that every woman needs to have on her nightstand?
I would probably say anything by Brene Brown. Any of
Yes.
her books are so good and they apply to everybody. And she's so down to earth that you can learn from her really easily.
Absolutely. What's a podcast that helps you quiet the noise? Is there one podcast you would suggest for people to listen to regarding like self-compassion?
Well, Brene Brown actually has a podcast. It's what's it called? Unlocking Us with Brene
Yeah.
Brown.
What is the first thing you say to yourself when you're waking up, like feeling that midlife like buzz of anxiety? What's
So
a good
this
mantra?
sounds kind of weird or funny. I don't really talk to myself, but it's more of an attitude. And this attitude, it has a combination of different things. So, like, first, there's kind of an awareness, like, okay, what's going on? My body's being
Yes.
crazy, my brain's being crazy. So I have this awareness without judgment, just kind of a curiosity of all the weird wonkiness that's showing up. And then obviously there's the self compassion piece in there
Yeah.
of being tender and kind, like, okay, this is showing up. It's probably going to be a difficult day. And then I think there's also this piece of gratitude, like grateful that my body is working in the small ways it is working, but also that it's telling me, like, hey, there's a problem here, or there's this. So it's giving me information so I can work with. So I kind of thank my body of thanks for giving me information so I have more to work with and I can try to help you out better. And I think there's this piece too of intentional knowing I need to take more nervous system breaks throughout my day. So whether it's, little breaths or doing some qigong or again that mindfulness stuff, trying to integrate it more in the day, and then honestly, it's for me it's prayer. Like I just
Yeah.
have to turn and
Same.
pray.
Same. Is there one simple somatic exercise or a practice that a woman can do, like in under a minute, to tell her
Yep.
nervous system, like, you are safe. We can let
Yes.
go.
Yeah. So I think of this one, there's 4 parts to it. And what's nice about it is you can just make it your own and it can change from time to time. But as long as you kind of remember these 4 pieces.
Okay.
So the first piece is to orient. And so orienting could be looking out, like for me, I'm looking out the window at this green tree, or it could be the blue sky, or it's just like looking at something like, and not for distraction, but just to be a reminder, like I'm here in this moment, right? So it could be
Okay.
looking at the cat, looking at, whatever it might be.
Right.
So orienting. So you can do that differently than me, but orienting is the first thing. Then the second piece is put your hands somewhere. I like to put mine on my heart, but that's
Yeah.
not possible for everyone. It might just be on their wrist or their leg or whatever, but you like touch yourself at some level. So that's that contact saying like, I'm here with you.
Mhm.
Right. And then the third piece is breath. And let's say you're super, super anxious. Like trying to do a breathing technique is not the best thing to do, but it might just be noticing your breath, like, oh, it's shallow and it's
Okay.
fast. If you're in the space to go deeper, great, right? You kind of meet your body where it is. but you do a breath, whether it's just noticing your breath, whether it's doing a particular breath, doesn't matter. You just meet your body where it is and do some kind of breath. And then the fourth piece would be that self compassion component, where it's some kind of affirmation, which can change all the time. Google has so many. Like if you just put in an affirmation for whatever it is you're struggling with, there
Yeah.
are so many fabulous affirmations. But it could be something like, I'm here with you. You don't have to do this alone. It could be, I don't have to fight myself to get through this moment. It could be, I'm safe right here, right now. So if you combine those four things, you can do that in 30 seconds, where it could really be a quick exercise, but
True.
it's helpful.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Wendy, for this time. It's so important. I hope that, the takeaway is that everybody should focus on self-compassion and there are easy ways to do it and to make it a practice.
I hope so. It'll
I
make
hope
us
so.
a better world, better parents, better
Yes.
lovers, better everybody.
Yes. So thank you very much for joining me.
Well, thank you.
Okay, that is a wrap on today's episode of Grownish Woman, and honestly, I could have kept going. If something you heard today made you laugh, made you cry, or maybe made you text your best friend and say you have to listen to this, that's exactly why I created it. Do me a favor, if you're loving the show, please subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts and leave a review. It takes like 2 minutes and it really means the world to me. It also helps other women in the messy middle find us, and trust me, they need the community just as much as we do. Come find me on Instagram, Grownish Woman Podcast, and keep the conversation going, because what we talk about here, it doesn't need to stop when the episode ends. It doesn't need to stop when the episode ends. I'll see you next Friday. Until then, be a little kinder to yourself. You're doing better than you think.